I'm a linguistics major. I've used the corpus in class for a lot of different things. I've used the corpus in other classes. Basically every other linguistics class I've taken, I've used the corpus at some point. I hope to use the corpus more in the future because there's so much really cool things you can get out of it that is past our human intuition. And basically every paper I'll end up writing, I'll probably use the corpus at some point.
And why is that? Why do you think that the corpus is so helpful in writing papers?
Like I said, there's so much you can get from the corpus that's beyond what our human intuition is. Just sort of how words occur with each other, what words occur together with certain other words, certain grammatical features, things like that you can learn a lot from. For example, I just did a search a few weeks ago about there is plus a plural nouns, like there is things, or there is people, or there is 5 birds, rather than there are things, there are people. And it was interesting to find the results of what noun is used for there is plural versus there are plural. Anyway, so things like that are, you couldn't go up to someone and say, hey, what nouns are used more with there is instead of there are. People don't know that, but a corpus does.
It's like a calculator for language.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. I liked that you said, it's beyond our human intuition. So if you could say that again and just kind of, we'd like that to stand on its own, because when we go back to edit clips, we just take, this is going to be like a 3-4 minute video, and we just take, 10 seconds, 15 seconds from this person, 20 seconds from this person, just a little bit. So again, what you find, or the way that you define it, I think is very fascinating, is in that, the great thing about the corpus or the corpora are that they are a connection beyond the human intuition, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I liked that.
Yeah.
If you could just say it one more time.
So I like to use the corpora because what we can learn from them is beyond our human intuition. The things that we can learn from them are, we all know the things subconsciously but not consciously. But using the corpora, we can learn what our subconscious knows. Kind of.
Okay, I like that. You want to say it one more time?
Yeah, let me try it.
Just on its own?
Yeah.
Now that you have the thought all together.
Yeah. So I like to use the corpora because we can learn things from them that are beyond our human intuition. There are things that all of us know when we use language. We know these things subconsciously. But with the corpora, we can find out what we know subconsciously and bring it to our consciousness.
Okay, great. And as a linguistics major, maybe could you touch on, when I ask questions, like the audience isn't going to hear me asking the question, so give them a little background. As a linguistics major, I use the corpora for papers, I'll use it for research, and down the road I'll use it when I'm a teacher to help students see how language really works rather than just what the textbooks say, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So as a linguistics major, what do you value the corpora for?
As a linguistics major, I use the corpora, and I value it because it has real-world examples of how language is used. There's none of this Jack saw Jill and Mary saw John, these fake English sentences that you'll see in grammar books or in English books. With the corpora, you know that every single sentence has been said at some point, and so you know this is exactly how language has been used at some point.
Okay, I like that. So if we could have you repeat again. Sorry, we have people repeat so much stuff. Every single sentence in the corpora is something that's actually been said, or actually been used.
Yeah.
So if you could say that again.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about, or one cool thing about, or something along those lines.
Sure. One cool thing about the corpora is that every single sentence there has been said or written at some point. And so you know it's an example of real English instead of sort of this fake English that we see in grammar books.
Okay. And what do you find most interesting with the corpus? Like, um, as someone who uses the corpus a lot, what, you know, if you were to go and tell a friend, hey, you should check out this database or whatever, what do you find most interesting about it? How would you sum it up for someone to make it sound really cool?
What I find most interesting about it is that you can learn pretty much anything about language through a corpus. You can find out things about pronunciation if it were a pronunciation corpus. You can find out things about grammar or syntax or how words are used. You can find out how words are used incorrectly. And I personally find that very interesting. Other people obviously don't find it terribly interesting, but since it's something that I really enjoy, I always go to the corpus because there's so much you can learn. You can never learn everything from a single corpus. There's always more you can learn, and so that's why I use the corpora a lot.
Okay, and hopefully the sound isn't too bad behind you. If you were to, or let's see, how did you first learn about the corpus?
I actually learned about it in my Introduction to Linguistic Computing class. We spent a day on it. We just sort of saw it just to know that there's a tool out there. It's called a corpus. I used it later that semester for a paper in my class, and then when I heard about the class that's actually corpus linguistics, I had to take it just because I had already used it a lot at that point, and I wanted to learn how to use it more.
Okay, and from corpus linguistics, what have you learned?
From corpus linguistics, I learned that there's a lot that I can learn beyond what just sort of, let me rephrase that. From corpus linguistics, I learned a lot of different ways that you can use the corpora to learn things. So I learned that you can find words that are near each other. You can find words that are synonyms of each other, and just a lot of different tools within a single corpus that you can use for it. That wasn't phrased very well. I don't really know.
No, you're fine. What do you find is the most useful tool with the corpus? Or even just if it's for your own use.
Yeah.
Not just in general.
I like to do a search and then organize the search results by the following word or words, and that way you can see what word is most likely to follow that certain word. For example, in the Portuguese corpus, I used that when I was writing Portuguese paper because there are certain verbs that take a preposition, and I didn't know what preposition to use for a certain word. And when I went to the corpus, I found very obviously what word I had to use.
Okay, and what corpus or corpora do you use the most and why? Or how do you use it?
I use probably Coca the most, just because I'm most interested in how English is used today, right now, with people that are still alive right now. I use that for basically everything I do with grammar and things like that, just because it reflects how people talk around me, and there's a corpus for that already there for me.
Okay. And let me see if I'm missing anything from this. We've got a script here. Things that we wanted included. What other uses do you think people appreciate the corpus for? I mean, you could, as a linguistics major, I'm sure you use it a ton. But for people in general, how might they be interested in going today and logging on and using it as a tool or something like that?
Let's see. I think people in general can use a corpus more for knowing what word to use in the right situation. If you go and do a search for a certain word, you can find what words surround it. And if you do a search for a synonym of that word, you'll find different words that are used around it. So when you're writing a paper or anything, and you don't know what word to use of these synonyms, you can just do a search and find out which one is most appropriate for the situation that you're writing.
Okay. And just to wrap things up, we're going to again ask the question, what intrigued you most with the corpus?
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to kind of tie in, summarize basically yourself, how you use it, and what fascinates you most with it. So, for example, as a linguistics major, I really appreciate using the corpora. And, what fascinates me by it is the fact that you can find words that are in your subconscious and become more conscious about using them and the way that we use them, or something like that. I liked the idea of...
Sorry, I'm just starting a new